Alright, we need to talk to the Archons to initiate the assault that we did all that preparation for, but before we do that, let's talk to all our companions. They all have plenty to say and thoughts, feelings, and backstories of their own, so we'll start with Verse. Couldn't help but notice how you were eyeballing the disfavored symbol littered around the camp. It's hardly a symbol, just a scrawl. That's true, but it used to be the pride of Graven Ash's Legion before Kairos made him deface it. What happened? Word has it that Ash has been under more scrutiny than the other Archons, seeing as he took a stand against Kairos. Before he bent the knee to Kairos, Graven Ash rallied his legions against the Overlord's authority. His prowess on the battlefield ingratiated him to the Archons, who welcomed him into their ranks in exchange for his obedience. Even though he bent the knee in the end, that doesn't place him above suspicion. Kairos and the other Archons keep him on a tight leash. Ash's troops impressed the growing empire, but Kairos made them sacrifice everything they were up to the point Ash surrendered. They've been disfavored ever since, and fighting to earn their honor back. I guess that's why you don't cross the Overlord. Kairos holds a grudge with a mean, jealous streak. Interesting. I have other questions. Go on.
What do you need?
Tell me about yourself.
If you insist. I'm a Scarlet Fury. That should raise some flags for you. It means that I'm good at killing, and more importantly, that I enjoy it.
Oh, what an edgelord we've got here.
What I won't enjoy are the pleasures of funerary rites packed with weeping mourners. Someday I'll fall in battle, and then they'll roll me into a mass grave or heap me atop a shit-stained wagon. One more anonymous, knife-riddled piece of meat. Until then, I plan to take whatever I can from life and have a little fun along the way.
Tell me about yourself before the chorus. Life? What life? As far as I'm concerned, I didn't exist before the chorus. There was some girl on a farm wearing my face and talking with my voice, but she wasn't me. Sometimes she would sneak out at night, take a scythe, and have some fun with the livestock. Our shared interests began and ended there. Oh, a psychopath. When the Scarlet Chorus swept through my village on their long trek from the Bastard City, that was when I finally woke up. I buried my old life, took red vengeance on anyone who had wronged me, and found the freedom I could only dream was out there. What happened to your parents? My mother ran a successful farm, and I worked on it for a number of years before I found the chorus. She was a hard, bitter woman, acted like the world owed her something. She never talked about my father, though I figured out a thing or two about them later on. He was a merchant from the Northern Empire who took a liking to her, and she him. He stayed around only long enough to get what he wanted. But never mind him. My mother never had what you would call taste, so he couldn't have been terribly influential to me if he did stick around. Do you ever wish you could do things over and end up somewhere other than Kairos' army? That is a naive question as I've ever heard. Kairos is everywhere. If you aren't in the Overlord's army, you're being trampled by it. Of course, I would have labored on the family farm into my maturing years, married some dolt, and littered him a nursery of squealing piglets. Having my body torn to pieces by smaller versions of me sounds like fun. Then one day, when I decided enough was enough, I'd slit my husband's throat over breakfast and run off to join the chorus anyway. My way saved a lot of time. She smoothed back the feathers in her hair and shakes her head with a smile. Ugh, what a fucking awful human being. Yeah, I guess you're a killer. Better to stick with the chorus. At least you understand. The chorus praises and rewards the things inside me that I would have suppressed in civilized company. Life is too short to repress every desire, right? Especially if I have anything to say about it. How'd you get conscripted? How did I think you have the wrong idea about me. The chorus didn't take me as a sobbing maid. I strode into their camp and enlisted. Someone tossed me a dented blade. I lived through initiation, spent a week butchering my neighbors, and moved on with my new kin. I didn't waste time with goodbyes. My mother had long since died, and the rest of my family were louses. The girl I used to be, even she knew that she was worth more than all of them combined. What's the significance of your feathers? Oh, she's loyal to me, so she will tell me. We're getting awfully chummy, so I guess you deserve the story. My mother kept a messenger bird, Witterbeak. He was an angry old bastard, spoiled from living the high life. Squawked in my window every single night. Pecked my finger while I fed him only the fattest, juiciest mice. When I left the farm to join the Scarlet Chorus, I wrung that ungrateful little fucker like a dish rag, plucked his feathers, and gave his carcass to the mice. It felt like justice. She slides a crimson feather from her hair and spins it in her finger. I also like how the feathers catch the breeze. Helps me keep my balance, especially when I'm moving fast. She slips the feather among the others and smooths it back. Enough questions about your past. That suits me just fine. I'm not much for comparing family histories if I can avoid it. So, tell me about your time with the Scarlet Chorus.
The Scarlet Chorus is mostly for madmen and peasants with rusty daggers, but it's also a little niche of freedom that I never had. Once I survived training and met my Scarlet Fury sisters, I saw a different side of the Howling Mob.
Tell me about your training.
For new recruits shoved to the front lines, training means surviving the first battle. Anything beyond that is for the fighters who show potential, whether as blade dancers or arcane madmen. There's nothing in the world like getting put through the paces as a Scarlet Fury. Every day is a test of your commitment and passion. Failure means death. The first few weeks were the hardest, but also the most rewarding. I earned my name, picked up some quality weapons, and met my sisters.
Tell me about the Furies.
The elite fighters of the Scarlet Chorus. Your typical Horde recruit fights with a rusty spoon and a chip on his shoulder, but the Scarlet Furies are, well, different. We focus our madness. We coordinate, we kill, we dance. It's like art. Imagine a sculpture that twisted in weird, beautiful angles, and then gutted you too fast for you to realize what was happening.
Are you fucking all there in the head, woman?
Oh, fuck you then. I'm not here to dazzle you with my use of metaphor. When it comes to the Scarlet Chorus, you either get it or you don't.
So you earned your name, huh? If you think a simple farmer from the Tiers would name her child Verse, I suggest you visit my old village. Most of them were walking around with surnames like Barrel or Fish, not the most creative bunch. She smirks and shakes her head. The chorus takes your name away. Whoever you were before, you aren't that person anymore. Then you earn a name back through great deeds, usually murderous ones. That's why you see choirmen walking around with names like Stink Mouse or Face First. There's probably a good reason for it. The Voices of Marat gave me this name. When the Scarlet Chorus runs howling into battle, he doesn't hear war, he hears a symphony. And when I fight with blade or bow, he told me that my music stands out louder than anyone else's and contains too many parts to be easily defined. He just wants to get in your pants. When you least expect it, the Archon of Secrets can be downright charming. Oh, yeah. What's your real name, Verse? That question isn't worthy of either of us, but I'll entertain it out of pity. You already know me by my real name. It's Verse. Are you looking for whatever arbitrary collection of letters and sounds my mother thought was appropriate when she didn't even know me? Wow, this person is so fucking bitter and horrible. Jesus. Then you're out of luck. I buried that name long ago. Long by my standards, anyway. Alright, tell me about your weapon skills. Awkward. When I was just a kid, it didn't take me long to realize I was natural. I could pick up a rusty kitchen knife and skewer a rat from across the room. The Scarlet Chorus gave me opportunities to further educate myself. My sisters were always a bit surprised by how quickly I took to different fighting styles. She frowns for a moment and then shakes off whatever she wanted to say. Okay, back to my other questions.
What do you need to know?
Before you hesitated, well, I might not have enough loyalty with her to ask. I have 3 loyalty. Let's ask her about some other stuff before we ask her about what she hesitated about. So who are your sisters? Who were they would be more appropriate. 3 Whispers, Red Geyser, and Seeking Sheath, the best fighters I've ever met. There wasn't a foe we couldn't take down together. Our fighting styles complemented perfectly, so we divided up the killing work like bards sharing a song. At least we used to. She presents a solemn salute. Tell me about Three Whispers. She was as calm as the surface of a pond, and light on her feet. More than one foe tripped and fell on their own blade due to her crafty footwork. She lets her gaze slip away from you as a fleeting moment of sorrow steals her attention. She does have some sort of sentimentality somewhere. A one-woman siegebreaker. I asked her about Red Geyser. A one-woman siegebreaker. She would launch herself at her foe like a battering ram. Not even a disfavored phalanx could have withstood that dumb, suicidal wench. Kairos' eyes, but she was something to behold. She slams her fist into her palm. Tell me about Seeking Sheath. That girl could pass a spear through 12 rings from the far side of a battlefield. Kairos helped any foes who approached her marching single file. She made a game of spitting as many soldiers as possible on the same javelin. Lovely. What happened to all your sisters? They were scouting around Vindrian's Well during the siege, back when we only suspected the guard of organizing in secret. My sisters and I came upon a group of them, or Kairos knows, maybe they found us. No one said anything. We drew iron and bronze. That was when everything went wrong. I was supposed to take point and occupy the guard with a dance of blade work. Something disorienting while my sisters picked their marks. I hesitated. I lost my nerve. Instead of rushing the Oathbreakers, I froze with my weapon drawn. My sisters fought on without me, but they were off balance. Like whatever I had was catching. They died, I lived. My sisters were relying on me to lead the dance, and I failed. Your actions were inexcusable for a fighter of your station. You're absolutely right. If I had witnessed the same in one of my sisters, I might even have killed her for endangering the rest of us. Good thing for me that they didn't get the chance. She chuckles, but there's no humor in it. Hesitation is a rot. It is unbecoming of any chorus member, and unheard of in a Scarlet Fury. I would cut it from my body and cauterize the wound if only I knew its source. She grimaces once more and turns inward, contemplating. Any thoughts on the topic, or are we just here to open old wounds? Why'd you lose your nerve? I wish I had an explanation. For the first time, I lost the dance. The Song of Murder drew silent instead. There was only rigid, organized control. That sounds like the Barrick chimes in. That sounds like the security of the phalanx to me. You should practice a more orderly form of combat if it suits you so well. Even if the Scarlet Chorus fought in formation, it wouldn't be anything like your hideous shield wall. She looks at him in disgust. Yeah, fighting smart is so dumb, so bad. More questions.
What do you need to know?
Who are the Scarlet Chorus leaders? Well, the Voices in Arat is the spider at the center of the web. He acts like the army belongs to him, and he only lends it to Kairos because it suits his purposes, both of which are true. The rest are all offshoots of the Voices, like the Fifth Eye. Once you get down to the rank and file, the Scarlet Chorus organize around a motley bunch of gang bosses who call the shots. What do you want to know? Tell me about the Voices in Arat. He's a madman, but that never stopped me from following his orders. Even in a legion as cutthroat as the Chorus, you know better than to get on the Voice's bad side. People who cross him, or just people he meets, don't tend to survive the experience. If he ever seems disorganized or lost, it's because he's channeling one of the personalities he's devoured over the years. His mannerisms shift over to someone else, someone who's probably long dead. Better to die than become part of the Voices. Through powers you can't begin to understand, the Voices in Arat steals the minds and knowledge of his victims. You know this happened often during the campaign against the Tears. What he gains from the ability beyond his apparent madness is anyone's guess. You know better than to ask him about it directly. I can't wait to. So what makes him so powerful? He is the Archon of Secrets, and he didn't earn that title lightly. People say that he knows more than every sage and the Tears combined, and that he can think 1,000 steps ahead of other Archons. It would be putting it lightly to say he's never alone under that disapproving helmet of his. If you make secrets your business, I guess having people constantly whisper in your ear is a good thing. I usually want people to shut the fuck up, but to each their own. Tell me about the fifth eye. A walking nightmare, that one. I couldn't begin to guess who lives under that armor and speaks with that reedy voice, but I'll tell you what I know. When your world is built on secrets, it pays to have a few extra eyes. The Voices in Herat has eyes in abundance, some that he keeps close, and others that he sends out to the wilderness. Whoever the fifth eye was before he came into the Archon service, now he's just a mad, jabbering speech hole, a bodily function, in other words, an eye. Wait, Herat's eyes are people? Maybe they used to be people. Whatever they were, they're eyes now. Folks like to whisper that the Voices in Herat takes his servants and cuts out all the extra parts that they don't need. She makes a quick snipping gesture with her fingers. I once heard the Voices and the fifth eye in a tent together. The Voices kept screaming, "Redundancies, redundancies," every time another gout of blood would spray on the canvas walls. I can't even guess what he was cutting out. How many eyes does the Archon have? The number keeps changing, either because it grows or because rumors don't mean shit. 3, 7, 19, some people say that all of us are the eyes and we don't even know it. She shakes her head in disapproval. It's one of those questions that drives you mad if you let yourself think about it for too long. Hey, you could be one of Tunon's eyes. You never thought, but you bet you never thought of that. That's true. That would be crazy if Kairos can actually see everything I'm doing and acts like he can't. Or Tunon, his second in command or whatever. Back to my other questions. Tell me about the gang bosses. A boss is anyone who can rally enough support to kill the previous boss. They cling to command until someone gets wise and stabs them in the back. Tip Cap leads the Filthy Lambs. Lox leads the Rusted Harps. Sharp used to lead the Bone Boys. Couldn't say where he ended up after they broke his legs. Waterwheel orders around the Hairy Hunters. Halls for Shit leads the Lazy Malkins. Then Scurvy Queen, Finger Food, and Wild Gash, nice, collectively lead the Ladies of Perpetual Strangulation. I'm forgetting at least a dozen more. I've even led a gang or two in my day, but they never survived for very long, so no point to get attached. You led a gang. Don't act so surprised. I can crack a whip better than any of those daisies in the disfavored labor camps. But I was never that interested in the power struggle of those grunts and scabs in the middle. I wanted to stand out on top like an apex predator. Here I am. Well, I wonder if she's more important than... if the Voices told her to spy on us, she says she's at the top. I'm curious to see what she's hiding. So, when I got tired of the gang, I disbanded and let the other bosses fight over the new recruits. That much amused me, at least. Some of my old mates are still alive and hanging around wherever they ended up. So before, you hesitated when you brought up your fighting styles. Why? Noticed that, did you? It's a matter that I'm not used to discussing, mostly because I don't know how. I mentioned that before. I am good at picking up different weapons and fighting techniques. The truth is, I'm better than good. I could flay a man so cleanly that I'd leave a single strip of skin behind. You wouldn't even need to be tied down. That was one of the first things I discovered about myself after joining the Scarlet Chorus. The Voices in Herat recognized me in it as well, which is why he singled me out for Scarlet Fury training. Okay. My sisters were masters of their fighting forms. But since they died, my style has really changed. Almost like I can kill as they did. I could pick up a bow, a lance, anything really. I could tear someone to pieces with a weapon that I only watched my sisters use. I don't know what it could mean, and that worries me. Interesting.
What do you need to know?
I have thoughts about your combat abilities.
Do you now? Call me intrigued. You already know that I memorized the moves of my Scarlet Fury sisters. If it seems like a total mystery to me, I don't know how you could have arrived at any conclusions, but I'm open to ideas.
Subterfuge check. Did you take their fighting moves or the memory of their fighting moves? Remind you of anyone? That is kind of clever.
If you want to split hairs over it, you could argue that I took their instincts, their reactions, but I failed to see... Wait. Are you trying to compare me to the Voices of Herat? The Voices of Herat is a monster. We both know that Tyrannis has never seen a creature more despicable than him. Never mind that he's kind of my boss.
I'm not comparing you to the voices, only this talent you exhibit.
My little talent that latches onto my friends and bleeds them dry, you mean? Because I never asked for it. I've traveled with the chorus for years. I've seen what the voices can do, and it scares me, all right? The idea that everything I am could be reduced to that. If I had that kind of power, if I could become like him, I don't know how I could live with myself. I'd rather drown myself in a camp latrine.
You don't have to become like him, just be selective.
Because the voices
Oops, I clicked
isn't...
wrong thing.
I mean, can you even call him human anymore?
I asked her why she has an aversion to such a thing.
Everything I am has led me to this point. I joined the chorus, fought to survive, grew stronger than I ever knew I could be. I never needed to steal anything that made me, me. I don't want to be better by being someone else. The Voices is stronger than anyone and terrifying enough to lead the chorus, but he's also an overgrown parasite. And someday he'll stuff himself so full of voices that he'll burst.
You don't have to become like him, just be selective.
I'm sure he had the same idea when he got started. But you know what they say about power? It's usually wielded by assholes.
Indeed, because most good, normal people don't want it.
My sisters died. Oh, you should have seen us. We were amazing together. I didn't mean to take away what made them special, but I did it all the same. And let me tell you, it felt terrible. If I lived a century, I might never figure out how to make that happen again. And more importantly, I don't want to.
How is it that you picked up your fallen sister's weapon skills? That has been on my mind for some time, and I still don't have an explanation that fits. I have a few ideas, but she frowns deeply in thought. Scarlet Furies share a sort of link. It's how we coordinate our dance in the heat of battle. We don't pass messages or anything, but our emotions and intentions sync up without words. She starts worrying one of her knives. After a moment, she sighs and slaps the blade back into its sheath. Go on. The one thing I always knew was that I felt this connection more keenly than my sisters did. I could pick up nuances that they missed. I could feel them from farther away. When my sisters died, I felt each one of them getting yanked out of my brain like someone pulling snails from a garden. But some of their slime residue was still there. Does that make sense? No, I don't think that means they live on in you. You should exploit this skill to its fullest potential. Skill? I'm not sure I'd call it that. There's something parasitic about it, but I take your point. If there is advantage to this thing I'm experiencing, I'm not above using it against our foes. No matter how you paint it, some part of my sisters broke off in me when they died. Now I'm left to deal with it. Just another day in the tears, right? What do you think about the disfavored? A warren of self-entitled children, so wound up in delusions of honor, they're likely to hang themselves by their own high standards. I wish they'd stayed in the Northern Empire where they belonged. Then we could get some real work done in the tiers. What do you think of old Graven Ash? I've seen enough of that high-minded braggart to know that he's all duty, nothing but a charismatic, broad-shouldered scarecrow. He calls himself the Archon of War, though by the way he stalls his forces waiting for a better strategy to present itself, you would think he's afraid of battle. Watch your words. I would not hear of you talking of the Archon in this way. A growl ripples through Barrack's armor, accompanied by sounds of bending metal. Was I even talking to you, junkyard? And no, I will not. You would think that someone more deserving would take Ash's mantle from him, but the disfavored have this cult of personality built around their great general. In their eyes, he can do no wrong. What about Ash's connection to his troops? Graven Ash protects. His soldiers keep harping on those little words like they mean something. I don't deny the disfavored can take a few extra lumps on the battlefield, but that only speaks to their thick-headedness. Oh, come on, you're just being an asshole. If anything, it's only true because his soldiers place that much trust in it. That is true. I've seen that power of suggestion do stranger things to people. Yeah, yeah, belief and extreme belief and shit can do a lot. Is that possible? We're talking about a man who is centuries old and wears glowing armor. You tell me. Who would you see take Ash's place? I would rather let the disfavored sort it out among themselves. Graven Ash, this aging figurehead of what should be a constantly changing role. The right soldier needs to grow a pair and kill the old man, kick his cane out from under him, remind the Legion what strength looks like. The Voices of Narat changes. He's a multifaceted gem, and the Scarlet Chorus is a reflection of that beauty. If someone could rise up and strike down the Voices, any of us would follow them in a heartbeat. And I suppose you have a better idea on how to handle the disfavored forces? Of course I do. First, I'd stop babying the troops. Pain is a lesson best learned early. I'd conscript from the locals to bolster the front lines because why waste your elite on the vanguard? Then, I'd leave any misplaced ethics back in the Northern Empire. They're not helping Kairos' campaign anyway, so fuck them. You would take everything from them that makes them strong. It's a damn fine alternative from where I'm standing. If all that strength couldn't end a siege, what good is it to anyone? Yeah, I mean, I don't like the fucking disfavor. They're a bunch of pompous douchebags, but it doesn't mean they're like... Just because you don't like someone doesn't mean you have to be an immature baby and like shit on everything about them. It's just petty. Would that be so wrong? The chorus is accountable for itself in ways the disfavored aren't. Our weak die and the strong fight to keep their rank. The disfavored promote their waning bloodline and the discipline any soldier with the audacity to show their teeth. Though they never admit it, the disfavored need the chorus to show them the way. Do you think the disfavored have a better chance to succeed in the tiers? Speaking as one of those exceptions, most of the tiersmen are pushovers. The people of Stalwart seem capable enough, though. I have my doubts. You might call them the disfavored's best challenge. Even if they succeeded, it might be too late to redeem themselves. The chorus have already impacted the conquest more than the disfavored have, or likely ever will. And how many thousands of choirmen did your victories cost you along the way? Barak clears his throat, the grating sound echoing in his helmet. As many as it took, junk heap. What are your thoughts on their strategies? They've really got something with that phalanx maneuver, a formation built on holding still, moving forward slowly, and hoping that no one slips in the mud. Yeah, okay. At best, the disfavored are tired of using the same tactic over and over again. Though, at worst, the enemy knows what to expect of them. Scarlet Furies are dancers. We hear the music of battle and organize ourselves into works of killing art. Every fight is as hot and passionate as the last, with no room for stale routine. Yeah, but routine is what makes you good at something. You speak of routine and discipline as if they were weaknesses. The shield wall keeps soldiers alive. Chorus recruits fly to their deaths like moths to a candle flame. Like Dothraki in the Game of Thrones Night King episode. To burn out while covered in the blood of your enemies is more honorable than the slow march to a dignified retirement. Would you rather feel the bite of a spear while hewing an axe through your enemy's skull, or the clench of your heart's betrayal while you sit up in bed, aged and alone? In the shadowy depths of his armor, Barak makes no sound. He doesn't even appear to be breathing. What do you think of those that defy Kairos' authority? The tiersmen can either fight or submit to Kairos' peace, and only one of those options captures my interest. I suppose I appreciate when they go down fighting. If they did otherwise, I would need to find another excuse to flay them. They need to understand whether we unify the tiers under a shared banner or at the bottom of a mass grave makes little difference to you, me, or Kairos. Interesting. It's a pragmatic view of the conquest, anyway. The Scarlet Chorus caught onto the idea at the beginning of the campaign. If no one objects that we're here to carve a bloody path for gain and amusement, then by all accounts, that is our purpose. Besides, unification is such a vague concept that Kairos allows the disfavored and the chorus to interpret it as they wish. The Overlord is concerned with results. I'm happy to focus on the details, especially if that means cutting off a farmer's legs while his family watches their land burn. She smiles at the memory. You are absolutely vile and disgusting. If you understood how a Scarlet Fury makes art out of death, you might not think so. Keep an open mind. You might enjoy the things I show you. Your words don't faze her in the slightest. She only nods, a suspicion confirmed. Did you fight in any notable battles? I spent some time in Azure. Toward the end of the war, Beastmen ripped my unit apart. We thought they might be working under Cairn's orders, but we never found out for sure. You learned a thing or two about fighting in the Scarlet Chorus. Care to duel?
That would be an understatement, and I thought you'd never ask. Since you're obviously at a huge disadvantage, I'll let you pick our weapon of choice.
How about bows? Let's play target practice.
If you want to risk becoming a pincushion, it's your funeral. But you're right about one thing. This will be fun.
You take turns loosing blunted arrows, using each other as moving targets. Verse is an accomplished runner and swats the few projectiles that get close out of the air. When her turn arrives, it takes all of your energy to keep up with her relentless volley of projectiles. You observe her technique and take a valuable lesson to heart. Cool, we got some...
You held your own. Call me impressed. Need anything else, or did I tire you out?
We got some bow skill from that. We'll talk again later. Okay, cool. Alright, maybe I should space this out. This is fun to me. We'll talk to Barrick, and we'll leave Lantry for later. We'll just go with Barrick, and then we'll get this show on the road.
You look as if you have something on your mind. By all means.
Placing his weapon to the side, Barrick salutes you. The joints of his armor groan in protest.
What can I do for you?
I want to know more about you. I am the line your enemies cannot cross. All other details are meaningless, but I suspect that you have some thirst for details, so ask anyway. Did you seek the trade of war, or did it find you? Both, I suppose. I knew fighting was in my blood, and the disfavored offered me a chance to use my skills to bring peace. Otherwise, I'd have wound up some brigand or an enforcer to a crooked merchant. Yeah, okay, so you're really not much better, but... He taps his scabbard, looking away in thought. You think Ash and his legion bring peace? That's cute, but it doesn't hold water from where I'm standing, big guy. I've seen him spill as much blood as any chorus gang. You've clearly been too busy sacking villages and stealing crops to notice how a proper army conducts a war. We sow order, not discord. Somewhat true, but it's more complicated than that. But. Yeah, I mean, the disfavored is clearly way more in line with order. Like, if you actually want to have a fucking stable society, you can't just be a bunch of psychotic madmen where you can die at any moment. Like, that just doesn't work. Bark is right. The Scarlet Chorus is too chaotic to recognize order. I can see you're beginning to understand. The Chorus is a useful tool to throw at one's enemy, but it grows brittle with age, and it's soon replaced. The disfavored need recruits in anticipation of the march south. They offered to care for my mother and brother as long as I stayed with the Legion, which is a better guarantee than you'll find anywhere else. I was an elite fighter, as far as most were concerned, though still green by disfavored standards. Luckily for everyone, my skills improved under the Iron Marshal's rigorous training. What's your name? Or tell me about your name. Barak is the shortening of my northern surname, which has been passed down through the generations since Graven Ash assembled the army. I go by it because I wear it with pride. The proper form is Barikonen. Beyond its age and association with the General's Legion, the name of Barakonan has no great titles or associations. I hold no claim to a great house or legacy, save for the disfavored. They are all the kin I need. So what's the story with your armor?
It is a symbol of Kairos' will, one that I am not likely to forget. I found this armor. Perhaps it would be better to say that it found me during the Edict of Storms.
What happened during the Edict of Storms? When we heard that Kairos would proclaim the edict, we rushed into the field to battle the forces of Stalwart. I was shoulder to shoulder with some of the Legion's most decorated veterans, and my pride blinded me to the danger. Our march was a hasty one. A cohort of disfavored soldiers vanished in the second year of the war, among them the daughter of Graven Ash. After a long silence, we learned that she was held in the fortress of Sentinel Stand. Go on. As we surrounded the citadel, I heard the opening peals of thunder, as did the scout I was busy trying to kill. Then the winds hit like an avalanche. Many of us begged Kairos for deliverance. What else were we to do? The winds knocked the legs of our offensive out from under us. All the decorated soldiers I brought to the battle were swept up and dashed to pieces, their armor and bodies mixing with the dirt of a tornado that spun in maddening revolutions. Damn thing chooses this moment to go dry, and with a few survivors to recount the edict. Bah! Lantry shakes his quill and presses it hard against a scrap of parchment, trying to get it to write. A piece of the citadel wall broke off and nearly crushed my skull. I only remember a few scattered moments from the storm, like the flying bits of bronze and iron cutting my flesh, the severed limbs of fallen soldiers tumbling through the air. Eventually, I woke up, thinking myself trapped under rubble. When I rose and felt like I was buckling under my own weight, that's when I realized I was stuck, right and truly stuck, inside this heap of scrap. How did you survive when everyone else died? That is a mystery to me as well. Did Kairos hear my plea for mercy? Did this heap of scrap protect me? Imprison me? Punish me? He rubs the back of his helmet with his gauntleted hand, a pantomime of a gesture his armor prohibits. I don't have enough fingers or toes to count the possible reasons, so I try not to dwell on it. You're genuinely stuck in there? Haven't you tried taking it off? I've made attempts in the past, even had one of the beast haulers pull on the helmet while another pulled on my boots. The men in the phalanx have taken great pleasure in trying to find ways to liberate me. In time, I grew wary of the struggle. Sometimes I fear that removing the armor would be to question Kairos' judgment and risk a more odious curse. I mean, it seems like solid protection. That would be an understatement. If it only protected me from foolish questions. He regards you in such a way that you can tell he's rolling his eyes. A forlorn sigh escapes his helmet. How do you handle repairs? I try to keep the surface oiled to slow the spreading of rust, and I bend the plates from time to time. But repairs? Maintenance? Nah. If you have any ideas on how to better maintain this situation, I am open to discussing them. So, you mentioned Graven Ash's daughter. What happened to her after the edict? She was trapped behind the walls of Sentinel Stand, imprisoned by Kairos' storm as well as the fortress itself. 1,000 soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder could not have endured those winds to rescue her. As with all the disfavored, I assume you grew up in the north? That's right. I grew up in Battle's Rest, then trained at Fort Resolution before they marched me out to support the second cohort. I hope to spend my rusting years in Fretton Shores, Florida, haha, unless, of course, I die in glorious battles, which would be preferable. My mother is good with the soil, my father with rings. He spends much of his time away on one's merchant's errand or another. Still, I'm lucky to say they're both alive. He's quite a bit more well-adjusted than old Verse. Would you like to discuss, I don't know if I have enough loyalty with this guy. I might. Would you like to discuss removing your armor? He looks at you for a very long time, his expression unreadable.
Though we are encouraged to couple and mate within the Legion, I don't consider you one of my cohorts. I think I'll decline.
I wasn't talking about sex, Barak.
You weren't? Forgive me. It's been some time since anyone made an advance, and I am long out of practice, as you can see.
He knocks on his iron codpiece with a resounding clang.
Suffice it to say, my armor and I will not be separated for the time being. When the war is over, perhaps Tunon will lend me one of his forge-bound. Until then, here I remain. My armor saved me from the destruction of Stalwart, where thousands of others lost their lives. So you can see why I continue to wear it. For the time being, we will not be separated.
Are you comfortable in there? I have somehow developed enough calluses that I can sleep at night, but I wouldn't call that comfort, would you? This is my armor. It has everything it needs and more. Purpose, meaning, strength. If it were comfortable, that would only take away from its other qualities. Do you even want it removed? I would not speak of this now, Fatebinder. Please consider the topic closed. That's fair enough. I'm just concerned. Damn it, you're right to be concerned. My apologies that you needed to pull rank. It was wrong of me to withhold information. I don't need to tell you that this suit of junk is a literal pain in my ass, half broken, smelling of shit, and perpetually jabbing my side with some Kairos be damned caltrip. These dusty plates may not be up to standard, but they serve the disfavored well enough on the battlefield, if only to intimidate the enemy. Better for me to endure this condition than to shirk an advantage. Considering that I wore this as I marched across the bones of Stalwart that was, my burden growing heavier with each step, I have no desire to leave it behind. It is a lesson, a reminder, and yes, a prison, but all of those things make it something more. It is an armor fastened in ideas, Lantry mutters to himself soberly and commits a few words to his manuscript. These plates have something of me in them. They are wicked as a bramble patch, as stubborn as a fortress, and hopelessly flawed. At present, removing my armor is not an option. If that ever changes, I will suspect the tears will tremble with the impact of my collapsing fortification. What a day that will be. What does Graven Ash think of this? I suspect that he doesn't, not to besmirch the great general, but he has larger matters to consider than any one soldier's woes. His shrug sends a puff of debris clattering to the ground. How long do you think this can last? The armor hasn't shown any sign of weakening, and my maintenance regimen is all that keeps it from rusting solid. Were I to stop applying oil and give in to entropy, this shell would harden to a degree that no forge master has ever seen. I think it could very well stand for as long as the old walls, with my skeleton peering out from the depths, and someday not even that. Now isn't that cheery? Tell me about what you can and can't do. I can't shit. I can strike fear into the hearts of our enemies and protect a shield wall with my very body. What more do I need? How do you shit? Let us say I manage, and manage poorly. The state of this misbegotten thing I can reach are in better repair than the ones I can't. The parts of this misbegotten thing I can reach are in a better repair than the ones I can't. Okay. How do you, sex? Are we actually talking about that, Fatebinder? Do you have nothing better to do than wonder how I access my nether reasons for a frenzied bout of self-interest? I don't want to hear this. How do I run far enough to avoid it? Well, it was there. I wanted to, I don't know. Well, I can't, and it's not from lack of trying. My works are inaccessible from the outside, and as much as I've tried to worm my arm out of its sleeve of iron, I would only succeed in dislocating my shoulder. If you ever think of me frustrated or disagreeable, just imagine what I've dealt with since the third year of the conquest, or more accurately, what I haven't dealt with. How do you fare in water? Better to ask, how do I sink? The answer is quickly. Water passes my lips easily enough, though I take great care to keep it from anywhere else. Back to my other questions. Alright, we'll finish this later. I'm ready to talk to these The Archons. Not that I don't find that. Alright, let's speak to the Archon.
I got it.
How can we trust your rabble not to turn at this last moment? How many of your conscripts have family bonds to the Vendrian Guard? It is decided. The disfavored will take the vanguard of the assault. It is the only way to assure success before the edict comes to pass.
Graven Ash's roar pulses your eardrums, his face reddening as he yells.
Oh, you're so young. We can forgive you for being stupid. Without your Archon of Stone to bring down those walls, you're out of your element. Only the chorus has the numbers required to swarm the walls from all sides. We will lead the vanguard of this battle.
The best the chorus could accomplish would be leaving a ramp-shaped pile of corpses propped up against the walls for my warriors to use. Their fortifications are not a concern. Even understaffed, my Earthshakers could breach the masonry in short order.
Another brilliant idea. Cairn's cult is, we're sure, every bit as trustworthy and sane as the late Archon of Stone himself. You did notice the spire at the center of the citadel? Hard to miss it, being only the tallest thing on the horizon and such. Certainly your Earth mages won't do anything stupid like, say, breaking the spire's foundation? What could possibly go wrong?
You hear the voices in your head. We love saying that name, Can, just to watch him squirm. Graven Ash had so much hair back before he met us.
I trust them more than I trust your circus of rapists, sellswords, and turncoat tearsmen.
Honestly, I do too. Archon Ash turns his head and upon seeing you in the tent, relaxes his posture.
Tunon's Fatebinder has arrived.
Our operations in Echo Call and the Trip Nettle Wilderness were successful. Why aren't you two marching towards Ascension Hall?
Why is it my so-called allies are more willing to belittle than to assist? The Vendrian Guard have been the least of my headaches in this damned valley. Now that we are all assembled, I want reports. The Scarlet Chorus was going to resolve the Oathbreaker presence in the Outer Valley. What became of that?
Yes, what did become of that? We should know already, yet we do not. If we are not mistaken, the Fatebinder played a pivotal role in this operation. Fifth Eye, shed light on this baffling question.
The Oathbreaker's radars were broken, and most importantly, their captain was taken, and he told us... The Archon of Secret grips his helmets as a chittering percussion of whispers comes out.
Nothing! Curse you motherless fucks! What have you brought but fire and
He slaps the forehead portion of his mask, and for a moment the emerald flames within his robes dim.
Oh, suffering doesn't really capture the nuance of what we've done. Apologies. We've been savoring this one's defiance. We know much of their inner workings, their desperate allies, their foolish hopes. This is our battle to lose.
Why I am on equal footing with Kairos' clown, I will never understand. So, Fatebinder, you would deem this mission successful?
The Oathbreakers were scattered, and I took the captain alive as requested. There's not much else to say.
Iron Marshal, I understand we've established a foothold across the Mittani. Report.
Securing the Mittani was a gruesome affair. An agent of the School of Tides still lives, and the river was turned against us. Despite our losses, the day ended in success at Echo Call Crossing, though victory came at a great cost. When it came time to secure the nearby village, there was a distressing discovery. The villagers had been stashing iron weaponry, no doubt stolen from our supply lines. Commander Antio wished to burn the village, but the chorus disagreed, and the Fatebinder backed their claim. Their leader, Captain Mittani Sybil, was bested in combat but taken captive by the Scarlet Chorus. Despite the disfavored taking lead on this operation, the Fatebinder felt it necessary to apply Chorus doctrine to the captives.
A most wise judgment, good Fatebinder. The Oathbreaker captain will no doubt provide hours of entertainment, and perhaps even some useful information.
You hear the voices in your head. She has been a most delectable treat, that one. So obstinate, so inarticulate in her flailing defiance. Some things are best savored in slow, tantalizing doses. We must thank you once again for delivering her to us.
This will be just like Stalwart, when your own conscripts chose suicide over service to the chorus. She'll be no different than the others. Petulant, uncooperative, and motivated to feed you false information.
Arguing over this is meaningless. Resolving the edict is all that matters.
The Fatebinder is right. We argue over trivialities when we should be closing the vice on the Oathbreakers. Let us march on the double. The disfavored will lead the charge.
You mean the Scarlet Chorus should lead the charge? Over 2/3 of your legion remains trapped outside the valley. Only the Chorus can bring to bear the strength and numbers this assault requires.
Enough! If these are my allies, why bother with the enemy? Even the low-born Oathbreakers have the honor and decency to...
He slams his maul on the ground with a bone-rattling thud.
Oh, finish your thought, old chap. They have the honor and decency to... To what? To abide by some sort of deal you made with them?
You hear the voices in your head. Can you not hear the treachery in his words? How can we be sure he hasn't been stalling this whole campaign? His legions boast victory after victory, and yet these half-wit Oathbreakers suddenly give the disfavored pause? I don't fucking trust either of you, I guess. Scowling at the Arcana Secrets, Graven Ash says nothing, his body heaving with agitation. Graven Ash doesn't seem like a liar, but he is squirming. I'm not sure. If you are unwilling to work together as a Fatebinder of Tunon, I will order you to do so.
With whom do you stand?
His mask tilts sideways as he lurches forward, wagging his scepter at you. Now is not the time for compromise. One of us will have the honor of completing this glorious conquest. We know you will choose wisely. Ugh, they're not gonna do it. I can't force them to work together. Honestly, the choices are like... I kind of see it both ways. The disfavored are actually like a strong military, and we kind of think they're assholes. Why wouldn't we want them to get fucked? The disfavored will lead.
You honor us, as I knew you would. You have made the right choice. The disfavored have stood at the forefront of battle since the first days of the war, and now we have the honor of winning this final battle.
He salutes you, striking his fist into his breastplate with a thunderous clatter.
Our beloved Chorus! We have too many lives to protect. We can't allow your foolish decision to destroy us all!
A brilliant emerald green radiates from the Archon, and the chatter of a busy marketplace seems to fill the tent. The scepter he normally holds as a playful prop is now clutched as a bludgeon ready to strike. You hear the voices in your head. No, we did not work so hard, only be denied our rightful glory in the end. You will die with the disfavored.
You would dare harm me and our guest from the court?
The air crackles with electricity as Graven Ash lifts his maul to strike.
By Kairos' word, this means war! How did it come to this?
You rouse to consciousness at the sight of Graven Ash swatting his hand towards the thinning green mist where the voices in Herat once stood moments ago. Well, shit, we will have to take the Ascension Hall without the Chorus's help.
Yes, and instead of having false allies on our side, at least we can march on the Citadel knowing full well who is friend and foe. And it goes without saying, the disfavored needs you now for this glorious battle. Please speak with the Iron Marshal. She will give you the specifics of our plan.
Are you sure you wish to go to war against the Chorus?
What other choice am I given? It is clear the voices of Nerat would endanger all of us out of vanity. Besides, we all know when this war is over, someone must rule and protect the Tears. So I will start protecting the Tears from the depravity of the Scarlet Chorus.
I saw you step in front of me, preventing my death. Thank you.
Just old soldier reflexes. Couldn't be sure if it was trying a simple illusion or a bolt of fire. Either way, needed to be sure my guests didn't perish in my war tent. Wouldn't be able to live that one down.
Farewell.
The Archon of Secrets left behind one of his spies. Perhaps we should send her back to her master in pieces.
He narrows his eyes and points a finger at Verse. Barrick's armor makes a discordant sound of iron bending under pressure. Everyone assembled in the room looks at him.
Something to say, Barrick?
Ash passes his stone shield a confused look.
Nothing at present, Archon. Forgive the interruption.
He looks at you with vague hope in his otherwise impersonal stare. Verse is with me.
You would harbor the Archon's henchmen in your company? This is aiding and abetting the voices of Narot. I cannot stand for it.
Well, until you and Narot forced this squabble, I was respected in the chorus. I do not need your permission to respect a fellow servant of Kairos.
Whatever pitiful regard the howling mob once gave you, you had best disregard it. You are Tunon's vassal, not theirs. And your support of my cause will not endear you to any former allies in the chorus. You are playing a dangerous game, Binder. If you wish to hold a venomous serpent so close, I will allow you your own self-destruction. Now leave me. When you are ready to join the assault, speak to the Iron Marshal.
I mean, I want the siege to succeed. I would much rather trust in like an actual military than a bunch of fucking psychotic lunatics that just run at people. So yeah, we will do the assault when we come back.